Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy MacPherson. I'm with Encompass, affectionately known as Mr. Easy Stock. And it's a free app we have. If anybody has an interest in it, let me know. We appreciate you all joining us this morning. And Juan is going to talk about all the wonderful stuff of SmartHQ. And we appreciate your business and appreciate you attending the training this morning. Juan, it's all to you.
All right, thank you, my friend. Thank you. All right, let's get this party started. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. Again, my name is Juan Morales. I'm the Senior Staff Field Application Engineer for SmartHQ Pro here at GE Appliances. And today we have the pleasure to have this final training session of 2025. Is it 2025? Yeah, it's 2025. It's going pretty quickly. So we really appreciate everything that all the support you've given us this year. This year went by super quick. But, a lot of people out there talking about SmartHQ service. A lot of folks this year actually acquired it. And we've been able to help businesses grow. We've been able to help your technicians be more efficient, be faster at what they do. And most importantly, if you're a service center owner, right, if you own your own business, this tool is designed to do one thing, and that is to help you run more service calls. So at the end of the day, because you're going to be more efficient, because you're going to be able to diagnose faster, and in many cases, you're going to be able to do a first-time complete. That allows you to run more service calls, opens up capacity to do other things, and of course, helps you grow your business and thrive. So my friends, you're at the right place, the right time. And another thing I want to mention, it is the festive season, okay? So I have a couple decorations over here. So one of the things we're going to be talking about today is, of course, going to be the bundle pack, which, of course, you can get it from your Encompass rep. And this bundle pack is going to come with both the Bluetooth module, so the hardware, and a 6-month subscription. And if you are looking for the perfect holiday gift this season, okay, if you have a technician maybe that was outstanding and you want to give them something a little extra, get them a bundle pack, because at the end of the day, my friends, or get it for yourself. This is the gift that keeps on giving, because think about it, right? You give it to your technicians, they are able to run more service calls. That means more money for you, or if you're your own operation, it's just going to keep on giving throughout the year. Okay, so with that being said, my friend, let's go ahead and move on to the presentation for today and talk about SmartHQ service. So some of you have never actually seen this before. Maybe you're joining us for the first time, and today we're going to be focusing primarily on dishwashers. So at the heart of the system in terms of SmartHQ service is going to be the Bluetooth module you see right there in the middle of your screen. And that, of course, is going to connect using an RJ45 cable to a port, which in the case of a dishwasher is located behind the toe kick plate. So all you have to do is remove the toe kick plate, and below you're going to be able to find where the port is located. You might have to maybe take a little flashlight or something to see it, but it's right in the front. Now, once you connect, you will be able to diagnose the unit. So in other words, from your mobile device to the appliance, there is going to be Bluetooth communication. And that Bluetooth communication will allow you to see things like, for example, the pressure sensor values, the turbidity, the water temperature, but also you can diagnose things like the water valves, the drain pump, all of that. And we're going to be giving a full demonstration in real time of how that takes place here. Now, in addition to real-time diagnostics, you also have access to cloud-based service documentation. So if you ever needed something like a schematic diagram or a service manual, and for those of you that are joining us that are affiliated with GE Appliances, you also get access to the service bulletins, which, as you know, will give you information that is important for you to fix known issues. So all of this information will be available to you right from the application. You do not need to go to a separate website. You don't need to access anything on the internet. Don't go to Google, YouTube, because there's a lot of information out there, but a lot of it is not 100% right. So we're going to give you always, of course, the information directly from the factory. The other thing is parts and
people are talking, but I can't.
If you're not muted, if you could do me a huge favor, my friends, just mute yourselves, and I will open this up for
this speaker
for questions in a little bit. So yeah, if you could just mute yourself, that would be fantastic. I think I could do it from here. Okay, so now parts information, okay? One thing we're going to show you today is how you can actually set up your SmartHQ service account so that you will be able to get your parts directly from Encompass, okay? And I'm going to tell you the code right now so that it kind of stays fresh in your brain. The code is going to be ENC, so Elephant, Nancy, Charlie. I guess we'll pick those three letters, ENC23. And if you enter those digits, I'll show you where you will be able to purchase your parts directly from the Encompass B2B website right from your mobile device. So you don't have to go anywhere. And what this allows you to do is, of course, to be able to expedite your parts ordering. And in many cases, you can get it within 1 or 2 days. Now, that being said, my friends, let's go ahead and talk about the dashboard screen and what it is that we're going to focus on today. So again, we are talking about diagnosing faster, being able to run firmware updates, all of that. So how do you do that? Okay, well, here's how. So when you open up the application, there's going to be a section called diagnostics. And in there, you're going to be able to see, of course, fault code information, which is going to tell you basically the error code stored in the machine, right? So normally, as you know, when you want to get the fault codes from the unit, you have to go to the user interface, press a series of key code sequences, then some lights flash, and then you look at a paper and you kind of have to decipher it. If you're obviously a seasoned veteran and have done this for many, many years, it's easy. But if you're not familiar with the specific model that you're working with in terms of the flashing lights and the codes, it might be a little bit difficult. But with SmartHQ service, you're going to get a detailed description of what each fault code means. So you're going to get not only what the fault code is, but also when it happened. So you do not have to ask your customer, or if you're joining us from property management, you don't have to ask your tenant, your resident, when did this happen, right? SmartHQ service will tell you. So that's always a really, really wonderful feature. The other thing is, my friends, alert information will give you things, for example, like, I'm going to just throw one example out there. Probably everybody that's joining us, if you worked on dishwashers before, you've gotten the complaint of wet or dirty dishes. Okay, we all get that, right? I was a service tech. I used to hear that all the time. And a lot of the times it doesn't have anything to do with a defective component or a broken dishwasher, but it has everything to do with maybe the cycle that the customer selected. So for example, if they selected the express cycle, which is like a 1-hour cycle in most machines, that cycle is never going to engage the drying portion at the end. So your dishes will always 100% come out wet. And with the alert information that SmartHQ service shows you, you're going to be able to see what, or it's going to tell you, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Technician, watch out for a complaint about wet dishes because this customer has been only utilizing the express cycle. So it kind of gives you a heads up as to what could potentially be going on even before you touch anything. So all of that information is crucial to you being able to diagnose the unit accurately for whatever issues it has. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is firmware upgrades. Okay, so this is kind of going to be one of the biggest tools that you can get, one of the most powerful tools or features of the tool. This firmware update feature allows you to essentially update the firmware on the existing board that is on the unit. So we're going to talk a little bit about firmware updates more in detail later, but I just want to give you a heads up. We have, for example, a symptom out there that maybe the display board on the dishwasher doesn't function, right? The customer states that they go press the buttons and it's dead. So again, as maybe a tech, I would be inclined to replace that user interface board. And then if that doesn't work, I'll change the main board. If that doesn't work, maybe it's a wire harness. By the time you're set and done, you've spent a lot of money on parts. You've wasted a lot of time when all you had to do was update the firmware and that would have fixed it. So these are the things that when technicians, go out in the field for the first time, they start using this tool. And here you are thinking you're going to be in the house maybe 30, 40 minutes, taking the unit out, putting it back in, trying to diagnose, order the part, have to come back. 15 minutes, you're in and out and it's fixed. You're done and you don't have to ever come back again. And that allows you, again, that opens up capacity for you to run more service calls. And that's why we say having this tool will pay for itself in only the first few times that you actually utilize it, right? If you think about the cost of going out there in the field. All right, my friends. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and pause here for a second and open it up to any questions. And the team over at Encompass, if you see anything on the chat, if you can just kind of let me know if there's anything in the chat, please, as well. All right, so looks like there's no questions for now, and that's okay. We definitely do encourage you to ask questions. This is a very open conversation here. We want to make sure just that you have a full understanding. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move on to the hands-on portion of the presentation. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and split my screen over here. Yep, whoops, there we go. So that you can actually see exactly what is going on with the unit that we're working on. So again, we have a dishwasher right over here. For time purposes, let me just show you where it is. For time purposes, we've already connected the Bluetooth module to it. It's already set and the app is downloaded to my mobile device. In this case, I'm using an iPad, but you can use a phone as well. And it doesn't matter what brand. It could be or what operating system. It could be Android or it can be iOS, and we don't care. Okay, as long as you're happy with your phone, we're happy as well. So let's take a look at the screen over here. So let's split the screen. And the first thing that we see is we have a model and serial number that pertains to this machine that we are connected to. So this is a cafe style dishwasher, but most of the dishwashers are going to have similar features. We can see that we have 4 fault codes. So if I go ahead and click on the fault code button and bypass, of course, or accept the terms and conditions, I see that there's 4 stored codes, but none of them are really active, which means they probably happened a long time ago and they went away and there's no issue. But if you ever see a code that says active and it's going to be in green, that's your clear indication that it is something that you have to address. It is something that you have to fix. And of course, SmartHQ service, if you hit the drop down key, it will tell you what the issue is. In this case, for example, this fault over here, the flood condition fault, it's telling me that about 251 days, so almost a year ago, this unit overfilled a little bit more than it should have with water. Okay, and it kind of bases that on the pressure sensor frequency value. So we'll get into that. But again, if I didn't know what an F63 fault code was, I would kind of be scratching my head, maybe calling TechLine or swapping out parts because I really don't understand what it means. So with this information, you're able to assess and say, okay, this is not a recent fault. This happened a long time ago. It's no longer an issue. And of course, you can also clear the codes, which is important after you fix the product, because if you ever have to go back, you don't want to get confused and say, wait a minute, didn't I take care of that the last time? Wasn't I here? Clear the codes once you fix it so that you start off fresh. If again, you ever have to go back, or do it for your, maybe the next technician that ever has to go there, right? As a courtesy. All right, so that's the fault codes. And in terms of alerts, we don't really have any right now. Again, no issues with this machine. And we do not have a firmware update available for this unit, okay? If we did, we would see a little triangle over the firmware update button over here. And if you click on that, it basically tells you there's no firmware update available. But again, if there was an update available, we would click apply, and that would be loaded immediately into the board of the machine. So again, if there's a known issue out there that you can fix with a firmware update, this tool will allow you to do that, and on the first visit, and without doing any disassembly other than taking the toe kick plate to connect your RJ45 cable. So that is kind of the dashboard over here. And before I get into the actual component activation and testing, any questions out there, my friends?
There is a question in the chat. How will the jig work on a completely dead unit?
Great question. So if the unit is completely dead, let's say the control board is fried. I'm assuming that's what you mean, right? So if there's absolutely no power coming from the unit to the device, so there's the device right there. There's the Bluetooth module. Essentially, the lights will not be flashing, right? There will be no lights. That is a clear indication that you have a dead board, and at that point, you can determine that your next course of action will be to replace that board, okay? Because once the board is dead, it's not going to be able to communicate with the unit. So that's a great way to diagnose a bad board without even having to take it apart. If you connect SmartHQ, the Bluetooth module, to the RJ45 port, and nothing's coming out to it, because it should. The Bluetooth module, again, let me go back to the picture over here. It has 3 lights. They should start doing something. If you don't see anything, clear indication you have a bad board, and that would have to be replaced. Okay, great question though. Any other questions out there, my friends?
Doug has one on the cost of it. Doug, Juan will get into that down the road as far as cost and ROI and all that. So just hang on for that. And Torrance had a follow-up. I've had that happen, to replace the main board and end up being the UI board.
Gotcha. Yeah. So on some units, depending on the models, so that's a great question, Torrance. I'm going to answer your question first. So units that, for example, you replace the main control board and it didn't do anything, that is typically as a result of some issue with another board that is connected to it. In this case, would be the UI board. I can tell you, switching gears a little bit over here, if you're working on one of those combo units, the combo washer dryer that we made, the RJ45 port does not connect to the main control board. It actually connects to the UI board. So you do have to do some basic research as far as where the port actually connects to. In the case of the dishwasher, it does connect to the main control board. But if there's some kind of issue going on with the UI board, you can troubleshoot that. And of course, that's why the tool will point you in the right direction. It is not going to be a magic wand that you can wave at and it's going to, fix things for you. There is some level of troubleshooting that you need to do. And for that, we actually have service documentation. So I'm going to go ahead and share that real quick while we're on the subject over here. If you go to your service and manuals section over here, and you actually pull up and right now I think I'm not connected on, I might have lost signal from my Wi-Fi. Is not that great, but typically what will happen is all the service manuals, all the mini manuals, everything will populate right on the screen, and you're going to be able to get that information straight away. That should have actually come up, so I'm going to find out why that's happening. But essentially, all your service documentation will be able to come up, and then you can do your troubleshooting, whether it's checking voltage from to and from the UI and things of that nature. Okay, let me go ahead and answer. So there was a question, Doug. Okay, I think it's about the cost, right? And yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. They could be a burned wire for the supply voltage. So in terms of cost, I want to kind of address that real quick over here, my friends, because first of all, cost is, we understand that, right? If you're running 1 or 2 service calls a month, GE, okay, is the tool worth it? Unless the firmware update applies or something like that, it's probably not going to be your best option, okay? But to put it in perspective, if you use this tool just one time a month, okay, and the cost for this is it's $50 a month to have this on your mobile device, to have the app. Okay, if you can save one extra service visit, okay, not only have you paid for the monthly subscription, but you've actually made a little bit of a profit in the process, because if you think about the cost of putting a tech in the field, it is far greater than the $50 that you pay for the monthly subscription. Okay, so use it once to save an extra service visit you didn't have to make, and that pays for itself. That's just one aspect of it. The other thing is, my friends, a lot of service companies, they actually charge for this as for example, for the firmware updates, right? Let's say you go in and you're replacing, I don't know, you're replacing a wash arm or maybe a drain pump or something, and you find out there's a firmware update. What a lot of service companies will do is they'll say, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, I can see that your unit is in need of an update. I can do it for an extra $50, $75, whatever it is while I'm here. Or I can come back, but I'm going to have to charge you a service fee, a trip fee for that. Most customers will just say, just go ahead and do it for an extra $50 or whatever it is. So that pays for your subscription right there, and you're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so in terms of cost, that's what I can say about that. The other thing is, this tool, we're actually, because you're joining us today, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here, you can actually get this tool at virtually no cost to you, okay? Encompass is running an amazing promotion, and I don't know how many of these we have left. I'm not trying to pressure anybody into anything, but we did provide them a limited supply of these. If you order your module today, okay, you're going to pay $199. It is going to come with a 1-month subscription included. You don't have to pay extra for that. So you can try it out, see if it works for you, see if it doesn't. And if you purchase $2,500 in GE appliance parts over the next 2 months from your data purchase, Encompass will give you a $200 credit, essentially making this tool 100% free. All right, so you're not paying a dime for this. You go to your shop, you buy this, pay your $199. You're going to order parts anyway. You're going to, believe me, you're going to go through $2,500 of GE parts goes just like that. So stock up on things that you know you're going to need. Get that within the next 2 months, and Encompass will give you $200 back, which essentially makes the tool free. You get to keep it forever. You don't have to give it back. And then after that, of course, you continue to renew your subscription as you see fit. But That is an absolutely amazing offer. And I do want to kind of defer to Andy. Andy, is there a limit on how many our customers can get?
Limit is 10.
10. Okay, so you can get 10. Oh yeah, because we don't want you to open up your your own like SmartHQ service. We don't want to see these on Amazon. But yeah, definitely take advantage of this. All you need to do is go ahead and scan that QR code. That is going to take you directly to the link where you can purchase it. Or again, if you don't have your phone on you, just contact your Encompass rep, and they will be able to take care of that for you straight away. All right, my friends, any questions about that? I see there's a question. How do we find out what the ports on the units? Beautiful. Okay, so there's a great question on the call right now. Let me go ahead and address that. How do you find out where the port is located? So I've actually just pulled up I'm trying to download, and for some reason, again, I think the Wi-Fi signal we have here is not the best in this particular location. Again, you only need Wi-Fi to download documents. You don't need it to actually connect to the unit. So we're going to be able to connect and do everything else. But in terms of the service documentation, it's giving me a little bit of trouble here. So when you go to the unit and you go to Ethernet port, there's going to be a button that you press there, Ethernet port location. That is going to bring up a PDF document with every single appliance that we manufacture and where the port is located. So if you're new to this and you have never connected, you will be able to see that right away. You're going to be able to find out where the port is located. Again, in the case of dishwashers, it's located behind the tow kick plate. So you remove that and you're ready to rock and roll. All right. So with that said, let me answer one more question. If you have multiple users in one company, does each tech have to have their own subscriptions? So one of the things that you can do, my friends, that's a great question. The application itself, the login will only work on one mobile device, whether it's a tablet, a phone, it doesn't matter what it is, right? So maybe you're thinking, okay, can I transfer ownership to another technician? Can another technician sign into their device, right? Theoretically, it is possible because when you register your device on a dashboard, so you have to go online and register it, you would basically assign the license that you purchased to one technician. But if you want to transfer it over to other technicians, you can revoke the license from that one person and then pass it on to the next. Now, this works great if you have like maybe, just two-person operation that maybe you run just one service call a day or something like that. But if you're running multiple calls, this will get annoying very quickly, I can tell you, okay? Because you're going to have to be transferring back and forth. If you get each person their own device, obviously that's what we recommend. It is much more efficient, much quicker. There's no need to transfer anything, and they always have the tool ready. So that would be the answer to that question. All right, let's go ahead and get into the hands-on demonstration over here because we actually running a little bit behind. So what I'm going to show you right here is component activation, okay? And what we're going to do is, again, for time purposes, I've already set up the application. And in this case, let's say, for example, that we want to activate components. Now, normally, what you would have to do is you would have to go into the user interface and press a series of key code sequences in order to be able to get into the service mode. But in this case, with SmartHQ service, you can actually simply go ahead and go into the operate loads feature over here. So we're going to do that. And I want to make sure that you guys can see that. Yep, everything's there. Okay, beautiful. So when you go into operate loads, we can actually enter service mode by simply pressing this button. So we enter service mode, and immediately the unit will give control to the iPad. So you can see the green bar at the top. That means that this particular mobile device now has control of the unit. So one of the quick tests that I'm going to show you is how to activate, for example, the detergent dispenser. Okay. So for that, we're going to go ahead and go to the main cup dispenser. And let's say that I wanted to test this because my customer is saying that the dishes always come out dirty and the detergent doesn't melt. So if this thing doesn't open, obviously that's not going to happen. So let's go ahead and hit the 1 second button. And you'll see that immediately the detergent dispenser opens up, just like magic, right? That was so much fun, my friends. I'm going to actually go ahead and do it again. So main cup dispenser, there it is. It's ready to go. If I click the main cup dispenser button, this thing will immediately open up. That's going to save you time. Now, again, if you want to test other components like your water valves, your drain pump, things like that, all you need to do is go ahead and select the component that you want. So in this case, we're going to select the water valve. So let's go ahead and select water valve test and turn it on. And the water valve will begin to run. And as you can see, water is coming out of the port right there. So the machine is filling. Now, there's another thing you can do over here. Let's say you want to monitor your pressure sensor to ensure that it is detecting the right levels of water. So we go to the watch box button up here and take a look at that. That frequency, the water pressure frequency, right now it's at 103.26. It kind of sounds like a like a radio station here in the New York area. But as the water enters the cavity, you can see that number dropping. The reason why this is so crucial, my friends, is because the water pressure sensor is responsible for detecting how much water goes in and how much water comes out, and that is also going to give you the one that gives you any kind of fault code information. So having access to the frequency basically tells you that basically means you have access to diagnosing the pressure sensor, which again, without a tool like this, you would have to go with a frequency meter to the board or to the connection and see if it's actually doing something. Now, what we're seeing right now is that the water pressure level dropped, or the frequency dropped from 103 to 102. And it's not a huge change, but it is a change which tells us the pressure sensor is correctly detecting that the water it has entered the machine. Now, if we go ahead and drain it, so let's go ahead and go to the drain pump test. You're going to notice that, first of all, the water is going to exit. So drain pump test on. So the water will begin to come out. And then we'll also go to the watch box, and you notice that your pressure frequency, right, that's in hertz right now, it's 102. It is going to go back up to about 103, maybe 104. So you can see right now it's rising, 102.98. And it is going to continue to go up as the water exits the unit. Look at that, it's gone all the way up to, what is that, 107. Wow, so it dropped quite a bit actually. Or it rose quite a bit in terms of the frequency value. Okay, so there it is. So with that said, my friends, now we see that the pressure sensor is definitely working. I'm going to kill the drain pump because it's making a lot of noise. So there it is. I just stopped the drain pump from running. All right. So that was just a quick demonstration. I wanted to just sort of share that because, whoa, I think I got up too quickly. Everything kind of turned black for a moment there. You know, when you get up really quick from... but anyway, all right, we're all good. So what I just did right now is a couple different things. I verified that both my water valve and my drain pump are working correctly. I also verified that the water pressure sensor is communicating correctly between taking the information from the filling, the draining, and feeding that information back to the main control board. So if there was ever an issue, for example, related to no fill, overfill, maybe not draining, things of that nature, it could be something as simple as your water pressure sensor, which is a very inexpensive part. But again, as a tech, what I often did is I misdiagnosed and I would put in maybe throw in a drain pump, throw in a water valve. That doesn't fix it, throw in a main board. That doesn't fix it, throw in a UI board. And by the time you're all said and done, you may as well have replaced the unit because it probably was cheaper to do that in the first place. But no, it's not cheaper. It's diagnosing is cheaper. You just need to know how to do it properly. Okay. All right. Let's take a look over here. Do these tests bypass the board? So that's a good question, Mark. Do these tests bypass the board? They do not bypass the board. They work in conjunction with the board. So they tell the board. So these tests that we're doing right now, I think you're talking about activating components. They basically send a command signal to the control board saying, on demand, activate the water valve. On demand, activate the spray arms, the heater, things of that nature. If the control board is not responding, and I'm glad you asked that question, because if the control board is not responding, SmartHQ service is a surefire way of knowing if you have a bad main or a bad component. Let me go ahead and show you that example right now. What we're going to do is we're actually going to test our water heater. Okay. Now you can see clearly here the water heater is not hot, because if it was, I wouldn't be able to touch it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fill the machine with water. So we're going to turn on the water valve test on. And I want you to notice also another thing on the iPad. Let me go ahead and put it over here. I want you to also notice when I turn the water valve test on, this off indicator, that's a status, that's going to turn on as well. Watch. So I hit the on key, and now my status is going to switch from off to on. There it is. It's on. That means that the main control board is properly sending sync voltage to the water valve in this case. It's low DC voltage for this particular unit. And obviously the water valve is working, so we know that the main board is properly sending voltage and the component is, of course, receiving it. The next thing that we're going to do, once the water valve test stops, is we're actually going to close the door, because you need to close the door to activate the heater. We're gonna run the heater, and again, right now the heater is cool to the touch. Okay, I can touch it, no problem. But once I turn it on, I'm not going to touch it. You're going to splash water, and you're going to watch it sizzle. All right, so that's a really cool way to find out if you have a good heater, right? Because obviously the heater will only work if it has the resistance is correct, and of course if voltage is going to it. So I think that's enough water. Let's go ahead and kill that. Well, you know what? It will stop. So it stopped. And now we actually need to close the door, because the heater will not run with the door open. So we're going to go ahead and close the door, and we're going to go ahead and click heater test on. Okay, and I heard a couple of relays click. So when you actually turn on the heater, you're going to hear with your ears, right? You're going to hear like click, click. That means the relays in the board activated to send 120 volts to the heater. That would be your first indication the board is good. And obviously, if you didn't hear the relays click, then there's probably a bad board. But again, the other thing is, you notice that the indicator for the status is on the water heater test. That means there is power going from the main control board to the heater. And in theory, that heater should be hot. If the main board was not sending voltage, that status, the water heater status, would be off. And that would tell you that you have a bad main control board, because that's where the power to the heater comes from, the main control board. So without taking out your meter, without pulling the unit from the point of installation, everything is right there at your fingertips. Let's go ahead and turn off the heater, because it's been on for about a minute. So all off. And then we're going to go ahead and open up here, and let's splash water. Again, I'm not going to touch it. There it is. Wow, look at that. Everybody see that? It is sizzling like sizzler there. Okay. So that's we were convinced, right, that we have obviously that we have hot water coming out of that unit. All right, so with that said, my friends, that is a very easy way for you to test a component like the heater as well, right? Normally, what is it that we have to do? Take the unit out of the point of installation, maybe check continuity, right? A lot of you folks out there take your multimeter and check it. So two things about that. I was just at a property management seminar. Was it this week? Yeah, earlier this week and last week in the West Coast. And one of the things that technicians told me is they always check for continuity. In other words, they're trying to hear the beep. And while that is, in most cases, a good way to do this, I'm going to just kind of shift your mindset a little bit and ask you to check for resistance, because certain meters at a certain point of resistance, they're not going to beep anymore. You're just going to see some numbers. So if you don't hear the beep, you might assume that there's a problem with the component, when in reality, it's not the component, it's the way that your meter was designed. So always check resistance, always look at the service documentation, look at the schematic diagram. It will tell you, for example, that the heater is about 14 to 15 ohms if it's at room temperature. Obviously, if it's hot, it's going to be higher than that, but make sure you get that measurement correct. And again, in this case, if you've noticed, I didn't use a meter. I just simply connected my SmartHQ device and ran the test, and then that's it. That's how we will be able to do that. Okay. All right, my friends. Any questions about this while I have this test set up like this? Any questions about anything we talked about? All right. So let's do something over here. Let's make sure we covered everything. So
we had two questions. Excuse me. If the T-stat was bad, would you still have heat?
Okay, the thermostat. Okay, that's a great question. If the thermostat was bad, so we're talking. I'm assuming you're thinking, when you're talking thermostat, are you talking about the cutoff or the temperature sensor, the thermistor? I'm just trying to understand.
Mark, go ahead and open up your mic and
yeah, you can open up the mic.
Speak.
I'm trying to find it.
And the answer to the
me?
monogram question, the answer is yes. It does service monogram. But go ahead, Mark.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was talking about the thermistor.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, that's a great question. If the thermistor is bad, that's a beautiful question. If the thermistor is bad and it is not detecting for example, a rise or drop in temperature, it's going to give a fault code, and it is going to disable, it could disable the heater function. And it doesn't mean that the heater is not working. It means that the thermistor is telling the main control board it's, the water is really hot or it's really cold. And then that would obviously throw the fault code, which is related to the thermistor. And it could potentially, for example, if, let's just say hypothetically speaking, if the thermistor value was stuck in a high temperature state, then of course it's never going to call for heat, and the unit will not activate the heater. Much like a refrigerator, if it thinks that the refrigerator is already cold, it is not going to call for the compressor to run, or vice versa. If it thinks that it's too hot, it's going to keep that compressor running. So very similar. So great question. And I want to actually go a little bit further with your question, because I think it's a really great question. I'm going to go ahead and activate a test over here. Not even a test, but we're going to go ahead and just run a cycle. So I'm going to hit the start key, close the door real quick over here. And I want you to notice something on the app over here. Let's go ahead and exit service mode. And if we look at our, let's see over here. So we're just going to go ahead and exit service mode. We're going to start the unit. So start, close the door. Okay. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the watch box. Look at the watch box over here. It tells you your diverter position. It also tells you your temperature value. So you have to start a cycle for this, but essentially what happens over here, my friends, is you have a temperature value that is displayed right away, and it shows 79 degrees because there was a little bit of warm water in there. And it also shows you your turbidity, which is the soil level in your water, right? So any value higher than 1,000 means that the water is relatively dirty. Less than 1,000 means it's pretty clean. It also shows you obviously your the temperature. We talked about that, and the diverter position. Right now it's unknown, but as the machine fills and then that spray arm begins to spray water inside the unit, it is going to tell you where the water is coming out of, from the bottom spray arm or the top spray arm. So this is how you would diagnose that. But really good question with regards to the thermistor. I see that there's a.
Let me ask on that thermistor question. If your thermistor believes that the unit's too hot, would SmartHQ still turn on the heater? That we could say, yep, the heater circuit is good and my heater's good, so I got to go somewhere else?
Absolutely. So in this case, we talked about bypassing the board. SmartHQ service will bypass that that command signal from the thermistor saying the temperature is too hot, and it will allow you to manually force the heater to run. Again, to your point, to be able to determine what is, to isolate the issue. So, very, very good point there. There was a question about monogram. So SmartHQ service will work on GE, the GE products, Profile, Cafe, what's the bottom end one? Hot Point, and of course all the way up to monogram. So yes, absolutely, it will work across the board. But again, only GE family products. Okay, it won't work on other manufacturers. We're working on that, but not yet. Enlighten us about the control reset alert. Any idea what causes that and why? Does a firmware update potentially fix the issue? Control reset. So depending on that, so we constantly get that's a good question. We constantly get information. A lot of our units are actually connected to Wi-Fi, right? So our customers now, they actually can connect their, for example, the cafe dishwasher, refrigerators, they can connect them online. And GE Appliances gets a lot of that data. We get a lot of that data information. And based on usage, based on how, for example, the cycles that we're talking about dishwashers, the cycles that customers select, we essentially put out their firmware updates, right? And especially if we know that there's issues, again, I mentioned it before, dishes coming out wet because the customers always select the express cycle. Well, we might be inclined to do a firmware update that maybe allows the heater cycle to run a little bit after that, or maybe the fan to continue to run to mitigate that issue. So the same thing with board reset. I don't have the specifics as far as what the actual code does, because that's a much more brilliant team that takes care of that on the back end, our engineers. Right, but it does work, and in many cases, again, if you just update the board, it resets it back to almost like if it came out of the factory, and allows the unit to function fully 100% as if it were brand new out of the box without you having to replace any parts. Let me see if there's any other questions over here. So hopefully that answered some of your questions. And again, if you have any questions that you maybe don't feel inclined to ask in the chat, or you don't want to ask them publicly over here, feel free to shoot an email to your Encompass rep and they will forward that to me, and then I'll be able to answer that privately later on. All right, my friends, I do need to move on. I got a couple of things to show you, and we're sort of running a little bit behind here on schedule. But while we're running this test right now, so let me just go ahead and show you over here. So the dishwasher is running. The temperature is 87 degrees. Turbidity value has dropped to 4.6. And again, it's just kind of doing its thing. And the diverter is going to switch now. It's in an unknown position, but it was coming out of the lower spray arm. When it switches, it is going to go to a different section. So in a little while, you're going to be able to see it go either to the upper or the lower spray arm. So let's give that a couple seconds. So while that is running, let's go ahead and talk about a resource that we have for you, and that is the Fix It Like a Pro training series. So much like what you're watching right now, you have the ability also to watch this content on demand, right? Anytime basically that you feel like it. We do have this available for you. So if you go ahead and scan that QR code that you see right there on your screen, you are going to be able to join these are GE sponsored or GE presented Fix It Like a Pro training series webinars that will talk about dishwashers, refrigerators, washing machines, the whole nine, right? And again, you can watch these at your own pace whenever it's most convenient to you. So with that said, my friends, I do want to move over to the section of no defect found cases. And for that, I'm just going to kill the dishwasher over here. So we're going to turn off the dishwasher. All right, so let's kill the dishwasher cycle over here. All right, so this section right over here, my friends, is one that oftentimes frustrates technicians, because if you walk into a dishwasher unit that, again, just like the picture shows over here, right? You have wet or dirty dishes. One of the things you might want to check is obviously your detergent dispenser, make sure your water valves are good, spray arms are good, the circulation pump, all of that. But if you still come up with no answers, right? You check everything, it all works to perfection. Like what else can you check? Well, there's a feature built into the SmartHQ service application called cycle history. Okay, and that cycle history, if you go over here we're going to go to the diagnostic section. If you click cycle history, it is going to give you information. Let me pull up the screen over here. It's going to give you information related to the last cycles that the customer has been utilizing. And for example, wet or dirty dishes, I mentioned before, could be as a result of using the express cycle. So in this case, take a look at what we have. We have the express cycle being used twice. It ran for 57 minutes, okay? The cycle did complete. But again, if the complaint is the dishes are coming out wet, bingo, right there's my answer. The reason is not because the dishwasher is bad, the heater's good and everything, but if you run the express cycle, your dishes will always, 100%, they'll always come out wet. So let me show you an example over here that we actually got from one of our technicians sent this to us. He had a customer that was complaining about the dishwasher running for about 4 hours. Now, do you really want your dishwasher to run for 4 hours? I don't think so. I mean, at least I don't have time for it. Maybe if I set it at night and I go to sleep, that doesn't make a difference. But if it's during the day, I want to get the dishes done because maybe I have 2 loads. I don't want to wait 4 hours for that cycle to complete. But in this case, this is what the technician was running into. So with cycle history, you're going to be able to see the cycle the customer selected. So in this case, they selected intense, which is kind of like the heavy duty, right? Delicates, normal, automatic wash. You're going to be able to see the cycle duration time. So if your customer says it's running for 4 hours, you can verify that. You can also verify if they're lying to you, because they might be saying, yeah, this thing's running 5 hours, and you're like, no, it's not. It's running less than that. But of course, be nice about it, right? Be diplomatic, be kind, right? This is a season of giving back and being joyful. So just, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, actually, I can see over here that it ran for X amount of minutes, but no worries. We're going to take care of it. Just, don't be like, oh, you freaking liar. You're lying to me. Don't, just be nice. You know what to do. All right. So you can see the cycle duration time. And again, 4 hours. Look at this poor customer, man, waiting 4 hours for his dishwasher to finish. He's got a whole room full of guests, you know, joining for the holidays, and he has no time for that. So he's saying some pretty nasty things that we can't say on TV over here. Otherwise, we'll get banned by the FCC. But the reason for that is not because the dishwasher is broken. It's because he selected the ultra dry function. Okay. If you select, so you have an option with dishwashers. You can turn the dryer function off, and then your dishes will come out wet, but you can manually kind of dry them with a towel. You can set it to normal or ultra dry. Ultra dry is going to leave your dishes bone dry. But the trade-off is you're going to wait a long time. So in this particular case, that's the reason. And of course, one more thing over here, you can actually see in the cycle history, the wash zones that were selected. So if you selected the, let's say, lower spray arm by accident, right, the lower wash zone, and you run your dishwasher, you might get dirty dishes in the top rack. And again, maybe you did that by accident. So you might think the machine's broken because the top dishes are coming out dirty, or vice versa. But as a technician, you will be able to explain to your customer, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, again, I can assure you, dishwasher is running fine. I just tested it. The reason why your top rack is coming out dirty, or the bottom one, is you selected only the top or the bottom. But let me show you how to do that. Press both zones. You'll never have that issue again. It's a great way to educate your customer. And let me tell you, most people will believe this bad boy more than things that come out of our mouth, only because it's technology, right? Technology doesn't lie, right? If it's on the internet, it's got to be true, right? That's kind of like the phrase. But again, a very, very useful tool in terms of educating your customers. All right, any questions over here about this particular section, cycle history, my friends, before we move on? Grab a drink of water. All right, now let's talk about firmware updates. Okay, with firmware updates, again, I mentioned to you the fact that as soon as you walk in, let's exit service mode over here. If you actually walk into the unit and find out that on the dashboard there's a firmware update, go ahead and click on it. And right now it doesn't show it, but under a circumstance where there is an update available, it will show a detailed description of exactly what that firmware update is going to do. So these are things that you might find in a service bulletin. So if you're not an affiliated company with GE Appliances, obviously you haven't signed the NDAs, we will not be able to give you access to the service bulletins. But if there's a bulletin available or a firmware update available that is in a bulletin, when you click the firmware update button, you will get that information, because we have to tell you what the update is going to do, right? We can't just leave you in the dark. You need to know that. Your customer doesn't need to know that, much like when you go in for a recall on your vehicle, they don't tell you what the recall is going to do. They give you a high-level kind of overview, but they don't give you the full details. Same thing, we will give you a full detailed description what the firmware update is going to do. So let me give you an example here of a firmware update that we have available out there. Let's say that your dishwasher is making noise, and the noise is coming from the fan. It's running like really loudly, or it's not running at all, right? The fans are just not running. This is a service bulletin that we put out in 2022, and the models are listed right there that it applies to. This is telling you that you can fix that without any parts other than by updating the firmware. But it does say that you have to order that jig, the SUM module. So some of you have done that before. The software update module they ordered from GE. It only works on that one unit, and then that's pretty much it, right? But of course, with SmartHQ service, you can actually update not just that machine, but any other machine that you have available.
Volume when they call came in.
There's no limit. Got a question out there?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me go ahead and mute. All right, sorry about that, everybody. So again, with a firmware update, you are able to basically salvage the board. You're able to run the service call or fix the unit in one service visit, which if that happens at the beginning of your day, maybe you had another service call that somebody was waiting, like for a cancellation, and you didn't cancel anything, right? You fixed it thinking you're going to spend an hour or so, and now that opened up capacity for you to run that other service call and take care of your customer. So again, my friends, going back to everything that we're saying here, the reason that we have this tool out there is for you to be able to run more service calls. Okay, it makes you more efficient, faster at what you do, and ultimately it also makes your customer happy, because if you don't have to go back and forth to their house multiple times, I think we all would prefer that. Okay. So that being said, my friends, let's go ahead and shift gear over here. Oh, I have a question, Mark. So Mark, great question over here. Why would you only select one zone to wash? Mark, that is a wonderful question. And it's not that you select one zone to wash, or let me rephrase that. Sometimes maybe I'm cleaning my kitchen here, right? Cleaning the counters and everything. And I go to the dishwasher over here, and I'm cleaning the display board, and by accident, I hit the wash zone button and activates only the lower or the upper spray arm. That happens also with, with your oven, refrigerator. So if you do that, and you did that by accident, and you start the machine, it'll only wash one section. If you have a small load of dishes, maybe just a couple of cups of coffee, a couple of little plates, I don't want to run the entire dishwasher. I just want to run like the top rack. So you can, or if you have like delicate items like Tupperware or plastics that specifically on the plastic it says only use the top rack, then I will only run the top rack and select that one zone. That is a reason why you would do that. Or if I have like just one really heavy, like heavily soiled pot or pan or something, I'll only run the bottom section, and I'll set the unit to heavy duty to clean the grease off of that pan. So that would be the reason why. Okay, a great question. How can I access TechLine? I have SmartHQ, but I can't get access to certain materials on SmartHQ. Okay, Frank, so that's actually a very good question. We do have a document. I will have to email it to you. So do me a favor. I just actually became cognizant of this maybe about 2 weeks ago. We do offer, or GE Appliances rather, offers TechLine access. There is a cost associated with it. It depends on the number of techs you have. There's a form that you fill out. If you do me a favor, share your contact information with Encompass here. I will be sure to forward that document to anybody that wants information about getting access to the technical assistance group, okay, the TAG hotline. So thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, we're going to be sharing that information with you. Just all we need is to know where to send the form to, okay? With that said, my friends, let's talk over here about the bundle pack, because a lot of you out there, when you purchase this, right, and we've seen this, you get home, you download the app, and you get a nasty message that says access denied. So we don't want that. We don't want that to happen. So when you buy your bundle pack, my friends, it's going to come again with the part with the Bluetooth module over here. It's going to come with your cables, so your RJ45 cable, your update cable. But and let me just read the part number to all of you. It's SPS B10P01A. So I'm going to put it on the screen over there so everybody can see it. So you should be able to see that number. Again, SPS B10P01AA. All right. And again, we'll have the QR code at the end to show you. But once you get home and get settled in, there is going to be, and I don't have the QR code on this one because they sent me the old box, but inside of the box, there's going to be a QR code right there that is going to take you directly to the video that I am about to show you right now. Okay, this video right over here. So what you need to do is you need to create an account online. Go to the website that the video will tell you. And then once you activate your account, there is going to be a code on the Bluetooth module. It's a Mac ID essentially. It's just the numbers are back there, kind of small to see, so you might have to take a picture with your cell phone. But you basically enter that code on the website, and that redeems your 1 month of subscription. So again, when you purchase this from Encompass, you not only get the hardware, but you get 1 month. And again, you get the money back if you spend a certain amount, the $2,500 in GE parts. But watch this video. I'm actually going to speak over it because I do need to narrate it. For some reason, the audio wasn't working. And this will show you the step-by-step instructions, my friends. So take a look.
Hello.
Okay, so we're wrapping up.
All right. So here's what you would need to do. The first thing you need to do is go ahead and go visit this website, which is service.dashboard.smarthqpro.com. Enter all of your information there, just like the video is showing you. Make sure that you register, okay? If you don't register, you will not be able to sign into the application. That's probably the biggest call that we get. Once you have successfully registered, SmartHQ will send you an email to verify your account. Go ahead and do that. And then once you verify, then you will be able to sign back into to the website. In case you forget your password, obviously there's a forgot password button that you can click on to reset your password if you needed to do that. Okay. Now, once you've verified, reset your password, whatever it is, go ahead and sign in. And now it is time to activate your bundle pack. So the website will ask you, do you want to activate a bundle pack? Click yes, select the number of bundle packs. In this case, we're going to select only one, and enter the MAC ID, which is again located right on the Bluetooth module, right there. The numbers are right there. You can only enter it once, so make sure you enter it, or you can only redeem it once. So you click continue. Now you're going to get this nice confetti saying you've activated your bundle pack. And now you have a license available. Just like it shows there, my purchases, one license is available. What you would do with that license, you would allocate it to the technician of your choice, whether it's you, your friend, your technician, whoever it may be. Make sure you select the right mobile device, Android or iOS, and then that's it. You have successfully allocated the license to that technician. That technician will get an email asking them to download the app to their mobile device. And again, works on both Android or iOS. And once you do that, you will be able to go in, click Service Tech, enter the email address that was assigned the license. And if you assigned it to somebody else, they will need to click the reset password button because you can't create their password. They have to create it themselves to something that they can utilize. If you assigned it to yourself, then you use the password you used to create your account originally. So that's pretty much it. And once you reset your password, now you can sign into the application and you can begin utilizing all the functions. All right, it's actually that simple. Anytime that we send you emails, please go ahead and check your spam. And one thing about the passwords, you do have to meet this criteria: 8 characters, 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, just like you saw on the screen. But once you clear that, now you can sign in and begin doing firmware updates, activating components, just like we showed you. And if you have any questions about this, my friends, you can always contact us at smarthqservice.support@geappliances.com. And that is basically our tech support email. So any questions that you might have, we will be able to take care of that for you. So just to recap, my friends, very, very simple. You get the unit. There's going to be a QR code, which if you scan, it'll take you to the video I just showed you with the step-by-step instructions. And that's it. Just make sure you redeem the code that's on the Bluetooth module. Download the app to your phone, and you should be ready to rock and roll. Okay. Any questions about anything I've talked about? All right, Frank. So yep, we're going to be. I'm glad you brought that up, Frank, because some folks have asked about that. Like, how do my technicians get access to tech support? And again, I just found out a couple of weeks ago that we are making that service available to anybody pretty much that's a service professional. We just need you to fill out the form. And again, I don't take care of that part. There's a whole different team that takes care of it, but we will be sending you the form as well. Okay. All right, my friends, anybody from Encompass have any questions?
Nope. Excuse me. Once again, we appreciate your insight and training. Just a reminder to everybody that the device is $200. Spend $2,500 in the next 2 months, and we will give you the $200 credit back on your parts account. And we appreciate you all's time today. And any training, it's on encompass.com. No longer requires login. And my main purpose in life is easy stock. I do have a training on that next week if you have an interest in that. And everybody have a great day. Thanks for attending.
All right, my friends. Thank you so much for joining. All right, have a wonderful holiday season. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.